As part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Welcome to Dig on America, where we speak truth to power. Every week, we give you the dig on how American history, policies, and media created the social and political issues we face today. DOA is independent media supported by listeners.
Well, Jason, how do you think the recent decision on abortion rights is going to factor into your calculations? I was recent.
All of the cases. It's been a great question. It's been like 7 of them. I was just going to ask that.
Yeah, how's that going to factor in? Well, now reproductive rights really is on the ballot because the Supreme Court said it's not a right. And let me comment on this: is for the Democrats, it's always been when it comes to reproductive rights is we got to protect Roe. That's gone now, so we need to get into the meat and potatoes of what that means. Contraceptives,
and also it's on state ballots actually too, because a lot of the people who are challenging these laws are using their state constitution to challenge the constitutionality of whether abortion should or shouldn't be legal. But sorry to interrupt, Mark, but yeah.
Because I know in Florida we actually use strict scrutiny for abortion here, but that won't last forever. Believe it or not, we never recognize undue burden. So, but that will probably be gone in the not too distant future now that Roe's gone. So
I'm hoping that the abortion thing motivates women to the polls.
I hope so too.
And my fear
when you say women, do you mean white women? Because I'm like, for Black women, I don't know that I don't know what other motivation and other minority women, because a lot of times it's minority women are the base of the Democratic Party. And sometimes, in my opinion, get taken for granted because we are going to show up and we are going to try to do that work. But when I feel like people be like, I hope women show up, I'm like, no, y'all talking about the women who voted for Trump or the women who didn't think that it would affect their life in suburbia. And now all of a sudden, now your daughter or yourself might get pregnant with no options and no way to get help. So I think we talking about those women.
And I actually have some friends of mine who voted Trump who are going bananas on social media right now. It's talking about fuck this and fuck that, and you can't do that. It's not your fucking body. I'm like,
these are y'all picks. These are y'all picks.
Wanted this.
These are y'all first round NBA draft picks. Yeah. Y'all picked these 4.
He literally said, "I'm gonna make sure this shit happens." Why didn't you? If someone tells you they crazy, please believe them.
You know, the funny thing is that Trump, if you're a fan of conservative policy, he's the most effective president that we've had in a long time.
But I think, a lot of people with privilege are very quick to hand wave away certain social issues because it doesn't affect them. They don't give a shit. Right. Yeah. So when it comes to immigration, fuck them. Let them stay over there. We got ours over here. Have yours over there. Mm-hmm. They get real selfish about their income. They get real selfish about their activism. They get real they always want to send some fucking 19-year-old over into a war. But when it comes to giving people fucking citizenship, now it's not. When it comes to actually taking care of it, I shouldn't have to pay for this ridiculous defense budget and put some money in the boot for the firefighters who are collecting money for the veterans, right? I shouldn't have to do both. If this is all the money that y'all want, but they're okay with that. They're cool with that stuff because it doesn't bother their everyday life. Well, now they're bothered.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they're going to stay bothered enough to get rid of people on their side that aren't going to do something to protect women's reproductive rights.
Well, we're seeing. Let's see if this change in the leaked opinion, create a new fervor in the Democratic Party. I mean, I saw a bit of it when the leaked draft opinion came out. Let's see if it's going to hold to.
I'm just afraid, Mark, that it's here's my fear. And let me just say, for the record, when I say Trump was most effective, I'm talking about if your Overton window is super far right, then you'd be like, oh, yes, what a great. Yes.
I understand exactly.
You're obviously a monster if your Overton window is over there. But I
understand what your premise is.
But the fear that I have, though, brother, is that this is it's still not close enough to the midterms. Like if this had people's attention spans are remarkably short, you know, and we're still going to be dealing with inflation, which of course has nothing or an astonishingly tiny amount to do with Biden. We're still going to be dealing with that in November. The abortion issue, it's going to go away, but it's not. Like, this has lasting effects, so it's different than most policies. I get that, but like, I think it would be different if this happened like October 15th.
But I agree with you, Dutch, to a point. But I also think that well, I don't want to say never, but in the last 50 years, we've not really had a situation where abortion was not a constitutionally protected right. So what you're going to see now, though, and it's funny because I've been watching different news people like interviewing pregnant women or women who want to get abortions or had abortions or whatever, talking about that. And what we're going to have leading up until the midterms, like, even though, yeah, there's kind of a gap and people do have a short memory and things like that, and, you know, other Supreme Court opinions and the whole nine, the women are going to actively not have options. Like, you know what I mean? And that's that whole part of it playing out, like someone's pregnancy is going to be playing out during that time. And now you're a voter, or someone is going to be having to make that consideration without options. So for example, if you live in the Midwest, the only place in the Midwest that's you're going to be able to get an abortion is probably in Illinois, which is likely going to be Chicago, just because it's the major metro area. Yeah, so like, we're now actively going to have droves and droves of women without options. In the South, it's almost completely eviscerated. Like this Dobbs case, Jackson Women's Health was the only abortion facility in the state. So now they just completely don't even have it. So now you're about to have all these women who yesterday they had options, today they don't. And by the time that they're voting on this issue, you might be 3 or 4 months pregnant. And now it's a real issue to you in your belly right now, because you can do something, like you still can do something about it. And so I don't think that the memory will be as short, because you're living with what the repercussions of these decisions are.
Right. Yeah, plus contraceptives might be on the list too. I mean, I read the opinion. I mean, it does say those decisions are safe. At the same time, it gives me a 5-step analysis on when to overrule a case. I'm like, this is what they're going to use to say this is overrule gay rights or overrule contraceptives overrule. How many millennials have actually bought that? So, I mean, lots of us have. And when we realize you can't go to a pharmacy and buy that anymore. You know,
well, it's already starting. Walgreens, Rite Aid, CVS, they're already limiting how many contraceptive, like Plan B and other generic drugs that you can even buy, because they're afraid that people are just going to start stockpiling. And there's already supply chain issues. So they're like, we're going to limit it to 2. But at the moment that you start saying that the supply is going to be decreased, what is that going to do to demand? Exactly. Now, again, only people with means are going to be able to afford. Like, that's the whole.
There's going to become a secondary market on it on Amazon.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And more inflation.
Exactly.
And they get to blame Biden for that.
You know, I think
that women voters, like we were just saying, will feel that in a way that male voters may not be able to feel.
I mean, because
if I get pregnant between now and then, let's just say, or any woman gets pregnant between now and when you vote, like what is it about to be July and to November? That's like what, 5 months? That means you could still be in the window of abortion at the time that you're actively at the polls.
Oh, and by the way, hotel prices around abortion clinics in Chicago and other places where they're kind of in a bubble there.
Stop it. Don't say it.
Really?
Watch
They're
it.
going up?
Going up already.
Don't say it.
They're going up already. Yeah.
Yeah. Medical tourists.
And you know, the thing that's funny, Dutch, is you said it'll be like toilet paper. Look how COVID has taken over our brains. Like that's the thing, right? Like if you said that in 2018, it would mean nothing. But now it's 2022. It makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. People can, and that's, I guess, that to your point, Mikey, I think that's what I'm saying too, is like, you can feel this now. Like when you walk in there and ain't no toilet paper, you still gotta wash your butt. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's a real issue for you now that you're driving around trying to figure this stuff out. And already I saw a news interview with this news reporter interviewing a few young women who literally had abortion scheduled for the day the opinion came out. And they lived in states that had trigger laws. And then the abortion clinics were like, yo, sorry, we can't do this today. We don't know what to tell you. And they're like, what am I about to do right now?
What happens to all those people who work there too? Like they just get to lose their job. And
I guess so. I mean,
I can say get a better job, whatever.
I hate it when big government tries to shut down local businesses. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean?
And they'll say, well, what about we don't want to see universal health care or single payer because, you might have all those poor people who work for Aetna or MetLife are going to lose their jobs. What about the people who lost their jobs at Dobbs Women's Health? Well, they're fucking Satan worshipers.
And
who cares?
And the years and years of litigation with Planned Parenthood having to fight every single lawyer on the planet, apparently, just to keep every single location open. And Anna, do you remember what it was called where they did all those well, your hallway must be 19.3
that was
inches.
Planned Parenthood.
The trap law stuff. I mean,
procedural restrictions.
I mean, this issue's only getting more bigger. So
it's just going to get worse because also, we were talking about this a little bit last time when we actually did the full dig on the Dobbs case. One thing that I think that will be particularly interesting is how overwhelmed that the healthcare systems and hospital systems of these states are going to be. Like they just are simply not prepared for the influx of humans that are about to be born. Number one, the influx of people that are going to be at these hospitals seeking care, and also other types of treatments that people don't even associate with abortion. Like when people have miscarriages, like when people have ectopic pregnancies, like when people have all of these other issues that are related to pregnancies and maybe related to abortion that are now criminalized, and doctors may be at risk of performing these procedures. So when you have a system like it's like, how I know y'all, I hate, I like Handmaid's Tale, but I hate using the reference sometimes just because of, Handmaids. But there was a scene in Handmaids where one of the women who was helping to craft like this crazy jacked up world where she had this whole ideology, but in her mind when she was promoting it, much like, in a very populist way, and it was, we're going to do this and it's going to be so great. But when it came down to the nuts and bolts of it, it did not play out exactly how you thought it was going to play out. And now you have a system that you yourself cannot survive in because you've created this monster that got out of control. And the thing is like I always say, like Mississippi, one of the poorest states in the country, one of the lowest education, highest infant mortality rate, highest maternal mortality rate, and maybe not the highest, but up there. Yeah. Also, just highest rates of poverty and all these other things. It's like, you all system, and Mississippi is not just the only state. I only bring it up because that's where Jackson Women's Health was. But these other states, if you thought the system was stressed before, the system is going to be completely eviscerated by this decision, and they are just not prepared for that. And so it's just, I can already see, and my heart breaks for what's going to happen because now, like, it's like you can see the writings on the wall. Like, y'all aren't ready for this. Y'all don't have adoption agencies set up for all the kids that's going to come in here. Y'all don't have people adopting these kids now. So what are we going to do? We're going to spend money, and there are going to be more wards of the state, and there are going to be more folks that are making these decisions and dying, unfortunately, as a result of all of this stuff,
or living a shitty life. I mean, the average person in Mississippi in the foster care system has spent 31% of their life in foster care, and the average age is 10. Who's adopting them? I'm sorry. I mean,
exactly.
These kids are probably like the greatest people ever. Like these are precious human beings, but you don't fucking care about them because you're not pro-life. You're pro-fucking birth. You're pro-birthdays. That's all you fucking care about. Your goddamn religion. Which, by the way, as I've said before, says nothing about abortion.
Killed in a freaking mass shooting, like, and it's like,
I was about to say they could care less about the birth. It's just, I need to be able to control people. I'm used to controlling people. I've always been able to control people. I'm going to control her.
Yeah.
She's my wife. I'm going to control her legislatively.
Yes.
That's my kid. That's my daughter. I'm going to control her legislatively if I can't do it because you goddamn blue-haired liberals keep poisoning my kid's brain. I'm going to control my destiny. I'm going to control my family. That's what that is. That's an abusive dad writ large on the whole country. Yeah. You can't tell everybody to stop fucking.
That's why. That's why I'm saying, like, I believe that we're gonna feel this in some extent in November, because as Anna was saying, like, you know, if I have a hard time buying Plan B at a pharmacy, I'm like, for the average owner, it's like, what is going on here? This is like, I haven't seen this since the days of the pandemic, and we all know how those days were. So I can see that happen. My biggest question is, are the Democrats going to organize well enough to handle this? Because
that's the question of the day.
Let's see. I mean, as I say, we tend to get riled up when the Republicans fuck up, basically. So and I think that's a problem with the Democrats. Is we always wait till something like this happens to get in gear. Like I always say, we should have been focusing on the state legislators a long time ago. So when this happened, it wouldn't have been as profoundly bad as it's going to be, which is where we're heading now.
This is the 1994 Newt Gingrich contract with America and the Tea Party getting what they wanted. They've been working for this for years because they've been working on courts and they've been working on legislatures.
I also just kind of want to talk about the framing of it. It's like, yes, it is a reproductive and primarily women's health issue, but I'm just thinking about all the men who are now going to not have the option to send this chick that you just got pregnant to an abortion clinic or go to the store and buy a Plan B. And now y'all gonna have that baby. And it's unfortunate because I regretfully anticipate that that's going to also result in violence against women. Like, y'all don't want to have the baby, so you just going to beat her or you're going to kill her or you're going to do whatever because you don't, because we recognize that people don't always want the kids that they have. Like, we know that. And also I read today that vasectomies are going up, which y'all should have led with that. I'm like, y'all the ones with all the sperms. We should lead with that. Every boy should get a vasectomy at 13. And when you are ready to have kids, and you should prove it to the government, since we're talking about bodily control by the government, when you can prove to the government that you are ready and responsible to have children, then maybe we'll think about reversing it. And that way we won't have to worry about abortions because we'll just cut it off at the source.
And you know what? If somebody just public service announcement here from Jason Dutch, if you're like friends with me on Facebook or Twitter, and you think, and you're spewing this, well, women should just keep their legs closed line, unfriend me.
Yeah, find your way to the exit, the nearest exit.
Unfriend me now, because when you post that bullshit around me, you're going to tell me that sex is fucking fun, dude. Sorry.
Yeah. They should try having some.
Yeah. And then you're going to say, well, so hold on a second. I'm trying to think here. You believe in the Bible. That's right. Okay. The Bible commands a wife to satisfy her husband in more than one place. So married women who are 40, 42, might have 5, 6 kids. You command them to sleep with their husband for his pleasure. But now she has to have she has to take a pregnancy to term. That sounds very convenient. It sounds very, very convenient.
Let's just get rid of the sperms. Like,
because the man can have sex for fun, but the woman, the wife,
you can still do that without the sperms.
I'm just saying, like, honestly, if there was like a free option at 18, you get a free vasectomy. Yo, it's lit. What are you talking about? Are you crazy right now?
I will push back on that. I will push back on that narrative, though. That there is a narrative out there I got to push back on. As a guy who's had a vasectomy, they were very clear when I had it 4 years ago, that it probably isn't reversible. So unless something has changed in the last few years, people are saying, well, you can reverse a vasectomy. That's news to me, because my doctor told me it's possible to reverse it, but like it's super low odds. So I would not go pushing that narrative that it's reversible, because at least what I have heard from my doctor, and this, my doctor was a liar.
No, we believe your doctor. We believe doctors.
Yeah. So, he told me that first. And like when we, like California, right?
Except Rand Paul.
So when you go to get a vasectomy in California, all right, you have to register for it, set up the appointment. You have to talk to someone on the phone. They have to make sure that you're you. Then you have to go to a class that is 4 hours. that talks about the vasectomy. And it's a big classroom, sort of reminds me of a driver's ed class where they, like when you get a speeding ticket, you got to go traffic school, right? So it sort of reminds me of that. And they talk to you about the vasectomy. They let you know the odds of reversal. And I'm in this class and it's me. I was like 40, 42 maybe. And a bunch of like younger 30, 35-year-old Hispanic guys, right? And then like all of us are there and we all have our families are complete. But there's a couple people there who are like younger and like this class is for them because they want to let you know, look, here's things that maybe you haven't thought about. Because this is pretty final. What if you lose a child? Right? Are you going to say, are you going to be in a position where you're like, well, let me go and let's have another child? Which I think that's weird to replace a child, but nonetheless, I guess people think about it that way. They are very, very, very strict with this. After you take that class, after the class, it's 30 days wait before you can even schedule an appointment. Mm. So, and that's all for just making sure that you know for a fact that you're going to do this because they can't undo it. So,
do they also recommend that y'all freeze sperms too?
That was part of the class. They said if you're younger and you're not 100% sure, you should do that. Yeah. They definitely did recommend that. I was like, no, I got 4. I'm 40 something. I'm done skis, right? So, but like,
fuck this shit, I'm out.
But like, let's say that I had not done that, and then Melissa's 45, 44. Whatever. And
25.
I'm like, I know you ain't just did what I think you just did.
Hey, she looks 30. So but
we wouldn't know that because you told us what it was.
Anyway, she's not watching. But like so if I hadn't done that, she gets pregnant. Now we're in California, but like people in that position now, that's why people don't think, like, they're like, well, what do you do? Because, we have an autistic 5-year-old, a 7-year-old who's a handful, a 16-year-old who's a handful, and a 20-year-old with PTSD. So like, you want me to have another kid? And like, I'm literally taking time away from, especially my autistic 5-year-old, who basically is kind of like an 18-month-year-old as far as like how we have to treat him. So it's like, and I'm supposed to do that, and we both have to go to work. Yeah, they act like we woke up and we're like, let's just get pregnant so we can go have an abortion. That sounds fun.
I heard the most stupid thing. This lady, a pro-life / forced birth, whatever they are calling themselves these days, she was like, most people who get abortions don't want them. And I was just thinking to myself, like, yeah, because I never want McDonald's when I go to the drive-thru. Like, why would I do that? And it just the cognitive dissonance that you have to really be saying stuff like that about people's decisions. Like, it's just difficult for me because
what do you think she was saying? Because
she was saying that she wanted to reduce the number of abortions. There was too many abortions, and that people really didn't want to have them, but it was available, so that they were just basically having them anyways because of the convenience of being able to have it.
Yeah, that's fun.
But I just thought, like, okay, you think that somebody is going to make the decision about whether they're going to raise a child for 18 years to the rest of their life or not? Like, you know what I mean? And I get it. Like, there are people who have abortions who do regret it, but there's a lot of folks who do not regret it. They're not in the situation, or you don't know whose baby that is. Like,
right. Oh, they should have kept their legs closed. They should have been more.
I think it's just they are out of touch with modern society. So,
yeah. I mean, I get it that, like, I think that, look, I've been through 2 of them. It's a tough situation, right? But that has nothing to do with it. It's got nothing to do with it at all. Like, it's like, I can understand, like, people, that can be a tough experience for people, but that doesn't have anything to do with it. You're still making a decision for someone and saying, oh, look, these 4 people who regretted their abortions, they're the only ones who are ever right. Like we know for a fact that women have been discriminated against in the workplace for hundreds of years, because, at least since women had more or less equal
the right to work.
Yeah, so
right
it's like World War II, like it's, and by the way, abortion is codified in the Bible. Again, Numbers 5.
Herbs.
Numbers 5 codifies it. Go read it. So
I just want to know what the obsession with other people's bodies is, because I'm like, y'all not caring about.
They don't want you to have sex. That's what it is. This is all about.
Okay, but these are the same folks who and no shade, really. But I'm like, if that's the case, why y'all don't stop the priests from raping the kids? That's also sex, and y'all not caring about that.
No, a woman's body is pure.
About that. So are children, though, right? Are they not? Aren't we saying children are the future?
No. Only a virgin's body is pure, because Mary was a virgin. See, like they look.
Children are
think
also
about it.
A lot of times virgins.
There's a reason why Mary was a virgin in that myth. There's a reason why she was a virgin, because that's the ideal that they set up.
Can they raise
why are you having mistresses and escorts on the side? Like, do you remember that site, Ashley Madison?
Yeah.
The one like cheat on your whoever. There was somebody hacked. I can't remember. I don't remember if it was anonymous, but somebody hacked that
anonymous
site and found out that 75% of the people with accounts on that site had .gov accounts. I'm like, it's literally y'all. Like all the people y'all talking about, it's y'all. It's literally y'all. Y'all the ones out here having abortions, Lauren. Y'all the ones, Ted Cruz. We know you paid her for it. Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
And then all the rest of y'all are cheating on y'all wives. Freaking Matt Gaetz is literally a child molester. There's also what is it? Who is the boy? Madison Cawthorn told us y'all are having drug orgies. He's like, yeah, there's a senator who's leading the opioid movement.
It's like it's like Handmaid's Tale. Like they were doing that.
What are we? And it's out in the open too. It's out in the open. Y'all got all these elites hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein and all of this and taking pictures. You got Trump in a picture next to him. He I don't even know that guy. I'm like, really? You've never met him?
Never saw him with clothes on.
Never, don't know that guy. Never met him. It's probably photoshopped. And it's insane to me because I'm like, these are the folks that we're talking about. We're talking about you all. And the fact that you can stand from your pulpit or stand from the floor of whatever congressional body that you're speaking in and try to tell me what not to do when I just know you're going to send your daughter, who's also going to get pregnant before she's married and potentially have a baby out of wedlock, you're just going to send her out of the country to have an abortion and tell everybody she went to go visit her after the summer. That's what you're going to do. But for the rest of us, you're going to make us have the baby and then get mad at us for needing government assistance. You don't want to give us government assistance. You don't want to give us education. All you want us is to have the kid and die. And create a class of labor, of cheap labor to support your lifestyle. That's it.
And more congressional seats for those states as well. And more population.
And gerrymander them out of the freaking vote.
Right, exactly.
Y'all gonna be like, all these black people. Okay, that's one. And then it's 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So that's what it is. So it's just frustrating to watch because I'm like, we know the game. Like y'all playing in my face at this point. We know what this is. But I think, like y'all said earlier, are the Democrats going to do something about it?
We'll see.
Find out next week. I don't know.
Tune in next week. Well, I guess we got to tune in next week anyway. So, Mark, we'll wrap up here at 3 hours. Mark, last statement to you, and then after you're done, if you would, tell the people where to find you.
No, I think the Democrats should have taken a stronger stance on reproductive rights a long time ago instead of just defer everything to the courts and run. Nina knows you don't always want to trust a judge with every issue, so that's always very problematic. So that's it. And to find me, you can find me on LinkedIn, Mark Berrios-Ayala, CINCERE12 on Instagram, and pick up Let's Get Sincere on September